Hey everybody, it's Cord Blomquist from Tallest Tree Digital. Wanted to show you a new tool we've created that gives you some insight into what TopicalBoost, the entity SEO tool that we've made, does when looking at an article on your website. So I've loaded up a few articles from websites that are TopicalBoost users and some that aren't, and I thought I'd walk through a demonstration of how what TopicalBoost detects on your website varies from Google natural language processing. The reason this matters to you is if you're looking to get your content found in Google, also in any of the AI services out there, Perplexity, ChatGPT, Claude, whatever AI discovery engine you're looking at, all of those things have to crawl the web and index them. And the cheapest way that they do that is by loading the page, scraping the HTML for the text, and then running what's called natural language processing. Natural language processing looks for people, places, things. Creative works like a bill or a court decision might come up, or something that someone has written like an essay or a book. Any of these things that are in Google's knowledge graph. So you can think of them as everything that's in Wikipedia plus billions of other things that Google has mapped the meaning of in this thing called the knowledge graph. So very often we found that natural language processing, the default way that Google does that, leaves a lot of things on a table, so to speak. So we found that over the 750,000 articles that we've analyzed, about 30% of the total topics that we find are found via our AI layer that we've added on top of Google NLP. So let me break that down by example. So here's an article from Cato at Liberty on New Jersey and its voter registration fiasco. You may have seen headlines about this. We don't really care about the substance of this story so much as we care about how machines are analyzing it. So let's look at that. Here in our tool, what Google NLP is detecting is the New York Times, United States Congress, New Jersey, John Samples, and Stephen Richer. Samples and Richer are Cato scholars that are mentioned in the article. But if I were looking at just these 5 terms, it wouldn't tell me a lot about what the article is about. I guess I'd have to guess New Jersey, but that's about as specific as it gets. When I look over at what TopicalBoost topic map is finding, it adds the National Voter Registration Act of 1993, which, by the way, the article doesn't actually mention by name, but it does mention the term motor voter, which is, I guess, the nickname for that bill because it involved tying your vehicle or license registration to voter registration. You can see it also finds voter registration, electoral integrity, and it identifies the Cato Institute as well. Using the editorial controls that we've added to TopicalBoost, we'd actually see Cato Institute not brought up here because it's the site itself, and we'd save that for part of the markup that would be reserved for just the publisher of the page. But you can see here, this gives you a lot better idea of what this article is about. And you can guess, if you're familiar with the Cato Institute, and an article about the National Voter Registration Act and voter registration and electoral integrity, what they might be talking about here. And it means that Google, if we feed this information back to Google as structured data and internal links, which is what TopicalBoost does, Google's going to have a much easier time figuring out who to serve this article up to, what this article is about, how to fit it to search queries. Here's another example from AEI, digging into pushback against data centers, a piece from James Pethokoukis. Google NLP detects New York Times, NIMBY, Amazon.com, artificial intelligence, OpenAI, Meta. But what it notably doesn't get, the TopicalBoost finds, is data center. So we see data center here. We also find capital expenditure, productivity paradox. I'd love to see Jevons paradox, which is more on the nose for AI. But we also see the information and history theory of flood. That must be a piece or a book that's mentioned in this article. So again, TopicalBoost getting a much more precise idea of the topics, the subject matter involved in this piece. It's going to change the way that Google indexes that if we're adding that to schema. And if we're creating tons of internal links around these things. By now, I'm sure that AEI has written about data centers over and over again in the last couple of years. And we'd love to run TopicalBoost across AEI's archive and lump together all those data center articles and see AI appearing in search the way that we've seen other customers appear in search when they start identifying the right things in their articles and lumping them together through internal linking. Here's another example at the Urban Institute. Here's the Urban Institute's 2025 Impact Report. We love using the word impact out there, don't we? We all have a great impact on the world. Now, if Urban wants to demonstrate its impact, it ought to be communicating to Google everything that a piece is about. What is Google finding in the piece? It's finding United States Senate House. That might just be the term House as in home, not the House of Representatives, and Tim Scott, the senator. What is TopicalBoost finding? Affordable housing, Urban Institute. Again, we'd probably use our editorial controls to leave that out. That's the name of the publisher, not really the focus of the piece. But it also finds 21st Century Road Housing Act. If we go back to the piece, we can see here Road to Housing Act. And TopicalBoost finds that proper bill. United States House of Representatives, mortgage loan, legislative process, manufactured housing, and it finds the abstract policy of housing policy in the United States. That's the real power that our AI layer has over straight up Google natural language processing. We're able to infer the larger topic of the piece, which Google NLP doesn't do. Google NLP is very literal. It has to be in the text of the piece in order for Google NLP to find it. For TopicalBoost, that's not really a constraint. Okay, finally, another example. Here is Bill on Pritzker's desk would let high schoolers take more career classes. This is about vocational education in the state of Illinois. What does Google NLP find? Google NLP finds Illinois, Bureau of Labor Statistics, and American Institutes for Research. For all we know, this could be about unemployment. This could be about good jobs numbers, bad jobs numbers in Illinois. Who knows? But when you add in everything that TopicalBoost finds, add that to the schema that's being crawled by Google and absorbed by Google, we're now adding in vocational education, Illinois General Assembly, workforce development, J.B. Pritzker. And we've noticed in working with Illinois Policy Institute, which is running TopicalBoost on its site and has analyzed its whole archive, Google NLP doesn't want to pick up on certain names. J.B. Pritzker. It doesn't like Stacey Davis Gates for some reason. It will find her in the articles, but it won't what we call resolve or actually link to her Wikipedia entry or her knowledge graph entry and say, I'm talking about Stacey Davis Gates, the head of the Chicago Teachers Union. Even Chicago Teachers Union, that you think pretty unambiguous when you say Chicago Teachers Union, but because those articles often then abbreviate Chicago Teachers Union as CTU, which is also the abbreviation for Colorado Technical University, sometimes NLP will be hesitant to, again, attach those topics. So it will see those words being mentioned in a piece, but it will not say, okay, the piece is about the Chicago Teachers Union. But again, back to this example, unemployment, career and technical education. If I look at this cluster of words here, I have a real solid idea of what this article is about. So overall point across all of these, whether it's this article from Illinois Policy, from Urban Institute, from AI, from Cato, if Google NLP is not detecting the things that your article is about, chances are that Google itself doesn't know what your article is about. If you use a tool like TopicalBoost that has editorial controls, uses an AI layer to figure out additional topics there, and then explicitly declares those things in markup, Google's going to be much more sure about what your article is about. How do we know that? When groups like Illinois Policy implemented TopicalBoost, we saw things like their Google Discover traffic double. Suddenly, all those articles where it wasn't recognizing J.B. Pritzker or Stacey Davis Gates or Brandon Johnson, the mayor of Chicago, we were declaring those things explicitly. We're saying, yeah, it's definitely about J.B. Pritzker. It's definitely about Brandon Johnson. So the number of articles that Google is willing to feature in Google Discover shoots way up. For Commonwealth Foundation, we saw next to no articles in Google News and Google Top Stories. Those are the carousels at the top of Google search results that highlight news stories. Saw next to none of those, to suddenly 12 being featured over the course of 6 months as major legislative issues went through the Pennsylvania State Assembly. In example after example, across our clients, we see you implement Topical Boost, you start getting these topics correct, you start internally linking them, and traffic goes up across all these different surfaces, whether it's search, Google News, Google Discover, Google News Search. So I think this tool is pretty cool. I think it's a pretty powerful way of demonstrating the edge that we have over Google Natural Language Processing on its own. We're going to make this tool available on topicalboost.com soon, so you can drop in your own URL, just as shown here, and we'll show the analysis and show you what Google's missing about your content. So if you like this video, please like and subscribe below. If you're viewing this on LinkedIn or Twitter, please like and share this post. I'd love for more people to discover Topical Boost and to see the awesome effects they can have on SEO for them. Until next time, I'm Cord Bloomquist for Tall Street Digital. Thank you.